Hello and welcome to the Orange County Crosstalk Show. I'm Alex Bolourchi. I'm here at the beautiful Westin Hotel here. And tonight, the World Affairs Council of Orange County have a special event, and the keynote speaker is Congressman Adam Schiff, and he's going to be talking about Russia and the affair with the United States. In a moment, I'm going to ask Serge Tomassian, the chairperson of the World Affairs Council of Orange County, to give us a little brief on tonight's program and the talk of Congressman.
Let me talk about the investigation. What is it we're investigating? Well, there are a lot of things that we know about what happened in terms of the Russian intervention, and there are some things we don't know.
Congressman Adam Schiff is our keynote speaker tonight at the World Affairs Council of Orange County, and we're proud and honored to have him here. We are a nonpartisan organization, so we invite speakers from both parties to offer their perspectives on important issues regarding world affairs and its impact on our country. And of course, since Adam Schiff is the ranking minority member of the House Select Intelligence Committee, he has some insight and a perspective. And certainly that perspective would be probably contrary to the administration's on the role that Russia played or didn't play in the presidential election, and that the role that Russia is trying to play through cybersecurity and other things in terms of influence in elections. And that's certainly one of those issues in Washington right now that has raised a lot of controversy and generated a lot of media attention. And we expect him to offer a perspective that, again, is contrary to that of the administration, but nevertheless, we need to hear that and we need to understand it, and we appreciate it. Adam Schiff has also been active in many other issues, including the Armenian genocide, as a sponsor of the resolution on the Armenian genocide. And so he's been involved in other key pieces of legislation. Another piece of legislation we expect him to discuss is the question of cybersecurity in the United States, ability to protect our national intelligence and our interest. Also, he was involved in the issue of the Saudi, let's say the Saudi war in Yemen, and his support of that, albeit he'll acknowledge, I suspect tonight, that it needs to be a peaceful resolution, but nevertheless he has advocated for a Saudi interference with that or involvement in that war. So we're honored to have him here this evening, and we look forward to the presentation.
Let's watch a little of the segment of Congressman Adam Schiff here, and we come back, and I'm going to ask Serge Tomassian, the chairperson of Orange County World Affairs Council, to give us a little brief or analysis of his talk.
Please join me in welcoming Congressman Adam Schiff. Serge, thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for that nice introduction. I don't mind being called ambassador, by the way. I can assure you I've been called a lot worse. And it's probably true there are a lot of people who would like to send me out of the country from time to time. But it really is a pleasure, and we've been working to try to schedule an opportunity for me to come and speak with you for some time, so I'm really just thrilled to be here. Not much really happening in Washington. Pretty quiet, very smooth. I don't think anyone in Congress has ever seen anything like what's happening. From either party, I mean, it really is an astounding time to be in Congress, and you never know what each day is going to bring. But the topic tonight is Russia. And I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the threat posed by Russia, just who Vladimir Putin is and how he views the United States, how he views the world, what the prospects are for a different relationship with Russia, what was involved in Russian meddling in our election, why did they do it, what did they have in mind, what does it say about their willingness to incur risks in terms of confrontation with the U.S. Let me frame it this way. We are not in a struggle with the Soviet Union anymore, the dimension of which was a struggle between communism and capitalism. But we are in a struggle, I think, in some respects no less consequential. This is now a global war of ideas that pits authoritarianism against democracy and representative government. There is a creeping movement towards autocracy that we see going on around the world. We see it in some European capitals. We see it in the Muslim world, and it is probably among the most profound challenges to the idea of liberal democracy that we have seen since the demise of the Soviet Union. If this seems like hyperbole, I can tell you that having just come from Munich, where they have an annual national security conference, where I was on a congressional delegation with John McCain, in Europe they don't consider this hyperbole at all. The Europeans are desperately concerned about Russia's willingness to employ force to invade its neighbors, as it did with Ukraine. They're increasing belligerence towards the Baltics, towards other nations that are on the threshold of possible extension into NATO. They see Russia interfering in a new form of hybrid warfare, sometimes involving actual Russian forces, as in Ukraine, but more often involving Russian very slick propaganda targeted at Russian-speaking populations. They hear a lot of what Putin says, and it brings back echoes of 1930s Germany, with Putin calling for the protection of ethnic Russians, the need for a greater Russia, the complaints that Russia has been stabbed in the back, that Russia is being disrespected. A lot of these very popular themes in Russia. For me, it's been a real education as to why these themes were so resonant in 1930s Germany. Many people ask, why did the Russians get involved in our election? And if they did get involved, why did they get involved on the side of Donald Trump and against Hillary Clinton? And a lot of it goes back to that 2011 election, when people went to the streets in the many tens of thousands to protest fraud in the Russian elections. And Hillary Clinton spoke out against irregularities in the Russian elections. Putin essentially viewed those mass protests as orchestrated by the United States. He viewed Secretary Clinton's actions as instigating a revolt against his rule. Indeed, from the point of view of Putin, who's a former KGB officer and tends to view the world through the lens of a former KGB officer, the CIA was responsible for all the color revolutions. The CIA was responsible for the Arab Spring. When I meet with the agency, and as the ranking Democrat in the intelligence community, I meet with our intelligence agencies all the time, I congratulate them on their omnipotence, that they have this incredible power that even they are not aware of. But I do caution them that these things don't always go well, so the next time they're going to foment an Arab Spring, they may want to think about where that's going to lead. We see what the Russians did here in our elections, they have been doing for quite some time in Europe. So they have involved in Europe in blackmail and extortion. They've been involved in funding extremist parties. They've been involved in hacking institutions in Europe. They've been involved in embarrassing or dumping material, sometimes forged, sometimes real, to embarrass people they consider to be opponents of Russia. So this is what they have been doing. And I think part of the reason why the United States was so slow to respond, that when the FBI learned that the Democratic Party had been hacked and was able to attribute that hacking to Russia, part of the reason I think they were so slow to respond, although this is part of what we're investigating and it's too early to say definitively, is I think they probably presumed that much as we had seen in the past when foreign powers like China and others were hacking our institutions, they were doing it for the purpose of gathering foreign intelligence. Now, all countries engage in espionage for the purpose of gathering foreign intelligence. What made what the Russians did so different here is they weaponized the information they gathered. It wasn't just about finding out more about the candidates for president of the United States or even the political parties or influential political leaders. It was the decision thereafter, which I think may have surprised the FBI. No one, I think, is in principle opposed to the idea of a better relationship with Russia. The question is at what cost and on what basis would we have a better or different relationship with Russia? If to have a better relationship with Russia means that we have to acquiesce in their illegal annexation of Crimea, then no, it's not worth having a different or better relationship with Russia. But if to have a better relationship means that we have to basically say, okay, well, we're going to accept that you invaded your neighbor and that you have annexed their ground, then no, it's not worth having a better relationship. If it means that we are going to acquiesce in the deliberate bombing of civilians in places like Aleppo, because this is what the Russians have done, then no, it's not worth having a better relationship with Russia. If it means that we're going to turn our back on their interference in the elections of our allies, and God forbid Angela Merkel should lose her election in Germany, and one of the few strong champions would be lost.
Do we expect World War III? Will we be able to require the release of Trump's tax returns? Will we be able to have an independent investigation of Russia's impact on the elections?
Let me do those before. I don't want to do Rick Perry and not remember the third question. And I can't avoid the irony there of the department he's now leading. But let me talk about the investigation. What is it we're investigating? Well, there are a lot of things that we know about what happened in terms of the Russian intervention, and there are some things we don't know. What we do know is that it was the Russians. It wasn't the Chinese. It wasn't some guy in New Jersey. And there's no disagreement among Democrats or Republicans on that fact. On the House Intelligence Committee or the Senate Intelligence Committee or really any committee, the evidence is really unequivocal that this was the Russians that done it. Now, there may be slight degradations of point of view among Democrats and Republicans about why they did it. I think there's no questioning the fact that the disclosures, the dumping of the documents, was universally hurtful to Secretary Clinton and helpful to Donald Trump. So the effect of it was not to be denied, but was the purpose to merely sow discord in the United States? Was the purpose to damage Hillary Clinton because they were angry about what they considered her interference in their election? Or they figured that she was the inevitable winner, as many people in the United States thought, and they just wanted to weaken the next US president? Or is it that they wanted to help Donald Trump because he had spoken disparagingly of NATO and that he might remove the sanctions over their invasion of Ukraine? The reality is, I believe, and I think most do, it's a combination of all these motives. And I don't think we'll ever be able to parse it out and say it was 50% this motive and 25% that motive. But the reality is they could accomplish all of these objectives and probably have all of these motivations in different parts. Now, one thing that gets raised about this in some of the partisan back and forth on the Russian intervention in our election is, was it decisive? Did Donald Trump win because the Russians intervened? What does the intelligence community say about that? And I'll tell you exactly what the intelligence community says about that. Nothing. And nor should they. Nor should they. That's not their job. We don't participate in NATO as a matter of how to
You're back again here, and Serge, Congressman talks about a variety of topics.
Right.
It was very interesting. The question and the answers are. What was your take of his talk?
Well, thank you, Alex. Yes, I think that Congressman Schiff offered an interesting perspective. I think he made it very clear he doesn't know if the Russians actually affected the election. He certainly believes they impacted and tried to impact the election, but whether or not the outcome of the election was determined by Russian interference, that is unknown, and there are a lot of variables in this election. But so he presented, I think, a rather nonpartisan perspective, to the extent possible, of what the Russian interference. And I think his point was there should be, and I think most people would agree, bipartisan condemnation of any foreign country trying to interfere in U.S. elections. And I think that's a point well taken that he made tonight, and I think we agree to that. I think he expressed some concern also about Russian interference in the elections in Europe, and I think that goes to his topic about the Russian threat to the West. And certainly one of the hallmarks of the West is that we have free and open elections, that we try to minimize certainly the interference from the outside, from other countries, and I think those were points that were well taken by him. I think the other point he brought up, and people question, what is the relationship? Where is the relationship between the U.S. and Russia going to go? And while I think most people would agree a better relationship with Russia has some good aspects to it, but I think his point was we shouldn't compromise our values to get along with the Russians. And he brought up the Crimea, he brought up the Ukraine, he brought up other countries where, other situations, regions where Russia has put some pressure. And he indicated that maybe the Russians are testing the new administration. Now, of course, the question was raised, Alex, and what is Trump's thinking on Russia? What motivates him to respond the way he did? And again, I think he admitted that he's guessing or he's speculating from a benign to a more benign to a less benign reason why Trump has believed that we should get along with Russia. One of the things he didn't touch on, and the Trump administration, others have said that there is common cause against ISIS now with the Russians. But of course, Adam Schiff said that very clearly, that he believes the Russians, in Syria at least, were not necessarily fighting ISIS, but fighting the Western forces there, and with the goal of keeping the Assad regime in power. And so, again, the question is Russia an ally with the United States against terrorism? You could argue that that's a mixed bag. Certainly, Congressman Schiff thinks it's a mixed bag. But at the end of the day, I think what summarizes it best, and I think this is a bipartisan view, and the analogy that Congressman Schiff used was when George W. Bush looked into the eyes of President Putin, President Bush said he saw a soul. And, of course, Adam Schiff quoted Senator McCain and said, I saw the eyes of three letters, KGB. So, like most things in life, perhaps, there's some truth in both. But certainly it's an issue that's going to be with us. The nature of the relationship between the U.S. and Russia under a Trump administration, how that may evolve, and what circumstances may dictate that relationship. What happens around the world will make a difference. And I think, Alex, one of the clear examples might be with the issue of Syria. If Trump is going to take a hard line toward Iran, and clearly Iran, Syria, and Russia have been allied together in the Syrian civil war, how is that going to impact U.S.-Russians relations if the U.S. becomes more hostile or less cooperative, such as the treaty that was reached under the Obama administration with Iran? And those are unknowns, and I think Congressman Schiff says that. We just don't know where it's going to go. But clearly, the relationship between the U.S. and Russia is going to change, and how it changes and for what reason it changes, we're all speculating, and how things unfold. But it was a good evening. Our council is a nonpartisan, nonprofit. We invite speakers to come and offer a perspective, and our job is to inform the citizenry, our membership, on issues regarding world affairs.
That was a wonderful summary of Congressman Adam Schiff talks, and it seems to me a lot of unpredictable things, with the new administration. So it's hard really to guess, and even a person like Congressman Adam Schiff, he wasn't certain about a lot of issues. But I think that's one of the World Affairs Council aim, to get these kind of speakers to come in and talk to to the audience and inform them what's going on really. And that's really one of the elements of, I think, World Affairs Council is accomplishing. That's really interesting.
You're right, Alex. Our council's goal is to educate and inform the public. We don't take positions, but we just want to activate and engage people to think for themselves and to be aware of these issues.
I have been educated here. In the last few years, I have been associated with World Affairs Council of Orange County. I learned a lot about politics and the way different people are looking at different things. I got the opportunity to talk face to face with them and see these are real people that are making these policies or criticizing the policies of the United States.
And so, as you know, our membership is diverse, different backgrounds. Many of us, including myself, are immigrants. I came here as a young boy from France, of course. But the point is that we all share several things. We're Americans. We care about our country. We have an interest in world affairs, and we want to discuss these issues in a peaceful and collegial manner. And that's what we do. We discuss these issues, and we invite people to come to our council. We had nearly 200 people here this evening, I think 200. We had a number of students, the future generation, to educate them on world affairs. This world is growing smaller, as everyone knows. And as the world goes smaller and becomes more interconnected, what happens here, what happens anywhere in the world, is bound to have an impact. And so we have to learn more about what is going on around the world and what the U.S. policies are, as well as what the other countries' policies are toward the United States.
thank you very much. Really, I appreciate your time. That
Thank you,
every
Alex.
time I
Very
come
good.
to World Affairs Council meeting or event, I learn new things, and I want to really thanks Serge. You put a lot of time and inviting people, selecting people who should come and talk. And the last word I want to say to our audience that
Yes.
please come and join the World Affairs Council of Orange County. You're going to learn a lot. So.
And meet a lot of interesting people.
Exactly.
A lot of interesting
so
people.
with that, I want to say thank you very much again.
Thank you, Alex.
And,
Thank you for your work you do for our council.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. I really, it's my pleasure.